What's going on, SML? SML Countdown is back. We've got AJ, we've got Straw. We're gonna have a little shorter version tonight. We're gonna just do the our topics and then our hot takes. So we'll get started. I know everybody's got a game to play, I think, after this, so we're gonna jump right in. And Straw, you're our only NFC representative here, so we're gonna go ahead and start with you. With the conferences kind of being unbalanced, we've heard it probably once or twice in chat that AFC's loaded and NFC's got nothing. So assuming they're unbalanced, do you think it's good or bad for the league that one side kind of has their top heavy compared to the other side?
It's tough. I mean, I know it's got to be frustrating to be on the AFC side of that, like to play so well and to have a record, that is should be deserving of the playoffs, especially when you look at the other side and you look at who's getting in. And I think it kind of speaks to like the NFL in general. There's so many different playoff sort of setups that feel a little antiquated and should be changed. Like how, the Vikings in the actual NFL are the fifth seed at, when they were just fighting for the one seed. So thinking about
Yep.
stuff like that, I think it is tough, just mentally in that kind of capacity. I know that could be frustrating. It's I think going into the year, I do think most of the AFC teams were better than the NFC teams. That obviously starts to change once like we get into the seasons and people get to draft and build their own team. Like they should
Hmm.
theoretically get more balanced. But I do think there was a discrepancy even in the NFL with how they were seeing it with AFC teams being better than NFC teams. And so now if you get like better potential users go into those AFC teams, then now you got just like kind of the NFL stacked AFC and not so much in the NFC. Like I think even if we look at the quarterbacks in the NFC, who would have thought any of those quarterbacks would be top quarterbacks, right?
Oh
Jared
yeah.
Goff, Sam Darnold, like
Yep.
what? Who are we talking about? So I think that has a part to do with it too. Like NFC teams were a little bit lackluster compared to AFC teams.
Hmm.
And so now I think because some of the NFC teams in the actual real NFL have showed their stuff, hopefully we'll see more balance when it as we keep moving forward with how the teams are set up. But I think it's a part of the game. It makes things interesting. It gives more to talk about. It gives people reasons to sort of fight and narratives to fight through. So I guess it's a part of sort of the nature of it.
Okay. AJ, what about you? You're on the other side of that coin.
Yeah, I think maybe on the front end, Straw touched a little bit on it. It might have been a bad thing because the better teams are on the AFC, the better quarterbacks are on the AFC. It just felt like more desirable teams were on the AFC. Um, it turned out that a bunch of the elite guys in the SML went AFC, so yeah, it's pretty top heavy over here. But I think that's a good thing. I think the NFC's been really competitive throughout their league. I think. I mean, um, even Fig is notching more wins than he's done in the past. He was pretty close to the playoffs last year. So I think the parity over there is pretty good. The AFC parity is still really good in my opinion. The final seeds outside of division winners have been, I feel like, different almost every season. Um, and if you look at the in the hunt, it's like the whole AFC.
Yep.
So obviously the competition's there. I feel like it makes me sharper uh, playing in the AFC. And I mean, at this point in the cycle, all the NFC teams that weren't very desirable are all pretty good now. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, um, so I think the team discrepancy is probably gone. A lot of older guys are starting to retire. Some
Yeah.
of the guys in the AFC are getting older. Um, so you know, I think it's good. I think it's good. I think it's equal. Each conference has still got a lot of parity with between conference. I know being like the shootout, like AFC's yada 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 over NFC, whatever. But most of that's the elites pulling the heavyweights there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of like it. And then on the flip side, you have the NFC. You see guys in the playoffs that maybe you don't normally see.
Yeah, that's
and,
cool.
and then if imagine Fig makes a run to like the NFC Championship game. I mean, which is possible at this point. I wouldn't say likely, but we'll go with possible. And I think that makes for a good league, and especially at the Super Bowl, you get guys that maybe wouldn't have made it against a guy like QP. You have QP, he goes up against, Grimm. Maybe he's more of an unknown, but you're going to have guys that haven't really made it before, or maybe wouldn't make it in a stacked conference, getting a shot. And I think that makes for at least a lot of chatter in chat and makes the game interesting. All right, so we've talked about new guys and like Grimm and some of these guys. What are your thoughts on the new guys as far as who's real and who's not? AJ, we'll start with you.
I think Grimm and Soda are real in the sense that they're perennial playoff contenders slash, probably fringe. Um, reason I know that I play those other guys really close, and that's probably where I'd put myself, is somewhere on the fringe. Every season I'm going to be in the hunt or in the playoffs, but probably not make a ton of noise. I like Soda. I think last season was like lightning in a bottle. I really do. Um, this is not throwing shade. I'm just telling you my
No, we'll
honest
save that
opinion.
for
But
later.
yeah. I mean, that's just my honest opinion. But and we've seen a little bit, fall from grace a little bit this season. So, um, as far as some of the other guys, let's see, we got Trick and Jashu. I think both those guys are probably a little too inconsistent to really find a good footing. Um, I think they're going to creep up in the playoffs every once in a blue moon. I think those guys are going to struggle a little bit, but who knows? Iron sharpens iron in the SML. We've seen guys like Raider Fan comes in here,
Yeah.
gets obliterated by Bomber 18 times in a row, and then now he's got one loss. He just beat Prime. So you never know. I may just be blowing smoke here, and all these guys may prove me wrong.
Yeah. Straw, what do you think? Who's real and who's not?
Yeah, I'd say for who's real. I mean, it's so much easier to say it when you play someone so much.
Yeah.
I Grim, we play a lot of games, and I think it's pretty even at this point. And so I like what he brings to the game, his scheme, and sort of the battle that we have, and trying to switch little things, kind of as you start to learn someone. And so I think seeing that, I'm like, oh, I know going into the game, I can't even necessarily think about what happened last game because he's also adjusting, and so things like that are cool. And seeing, and we've all been really competitive for the division, so I think Grim, is definitely bringing a lot. That's some really good stuff. Um, uh, I think when I start thinking of like who who's real and who's not. And the who's not, it's tough because I would just want to see more games for me with them.
Yeah.
How I build and how I work, off of, if I see someone coming in and maybe they have a game plan and it worked really well. But then as I keep playing them, they're kind of sticking to that or not really shifting or changing. And you said this, you say this all the time, Bobber. The SML will figure you out
Oh yeah.
really, really quickly.
Yep.
And then how will you be or how will you show up? So I think really, I there's still a lot I want to see from the rest of the guys to kind of figure out who's real and who's not. Two that I'm looking at in particular. I don't think I've had a ton of games with Alex. I just had one game with him, where I just had a game with him a couple of weeks ago where he got the edge on me, and so I want to play him a couple more times, and Soda as well. So yeah, I want to see more games from them. But I'd say the person who I think is the real deal is Grim.
Okay. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I feel like he's been here long enough that people could catch on, and so far he's still one of the top seeds in the NFC. Whereas you got a guy like Soda who, started out hot and now all of a sudden he's a 5-win team. Um, if you can't adjust, you're probably going to be in trouble. I know he said he's changed his playbook, but it if you run the same plays, it doesn't matter. Tight end
Right.
corner is tight end corner. I don't care what playbook you run it out of. But so guys that can change, and it looks like Grim maybe is one of those guys that can adjust, and I think he's the real deal. I know he's not really as new, but Raider fan Alex, I think he may be the real deal. He went from getting, stomped pretty consistently when he was the Packers. He had a rough first season with the Panthers, and he's just improved every season. Now he's sitting at 10-2, just beat Prime.
Yeah.
So you talk about guys adjusting. He's adjusted really well, and it shows in the improvement in his record. All right. So now we'll move on to a little bit of gameplay. Uh, Linebackers being better. I think we all can kind of agree that now they actually do something. I mean, you can look at the interception numbers and see that linebackers can be used. Um, do you think it's worth it to put a safety at your sub linebacker spot, or you just stick with linebackers there, AJ?
Well, personally, I've experimented with both. I still like the sub linebacker when somebody's coming out in shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, now, a lot of times, even if somebody's coming out in shotgun, but it's like a two wide receiver set or something, or two tight ends, I'll still run 4-3, and I'll keep my linebackers out there. So
Yeah.
there's times where I think linebackers are definitely better, but they still can't jump, man. If you're using a linebacker and somebody wants to throw over the cover two middle linebacker, they can just throw it over you and you can't jump. You could be in the perfect place, just can't jump. It's still feel like it's a slight disadvantage against the guys that are really passing those tight windows.
All right. So your team safety. What about you, Straw?
I'll say that but I'm just kind of getting to learning my team. My team building hasn't been as great as what it's been previous cycles. So I'm just kind of learning my team. And I actually my linebackers haven't been the greatest. And so I had a rookie sub linebacker that I mean a rookie that I'd been using for the sub linebacker because he fit the qualifications and he had been really, really good in that spot. And he actually just got a speed boost. And so I have to move him away and use more linebackers. And at the same time, I signed Zaire, and my linebacker started playing like crap. So call it the Zaire curse. Call it. That's what some may be saying. And so I guess I'm gonna actually learn that coming up here soon. But I will say I've seen some really good play from my linebackers. I actually rotated them through to figure out who was gonna stand out, and there's some that actually have been making a lot of plays and getting a lot of interceptions. So I'm noticing that they're playing really well. I think I was using the rookie sub linebacker just because that's what it had been. And to AJ's point, you just have linebackers there and you have things covered and they don't animate. And so it seems like they are doing that now. So I'm interested to see what it's going to kind of be like moving forward with now having to go all linebackers.
Yeah, I've been using all linebackers, I think, since the middle of season 2, and I haven't really noticed the difference. I got Hill and Harris, but they're both over 90 speed, so maybe that helps a little bit with the difference
that helps.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
personnel thing when it comes down to it.
There's probably a personnel thing that goes there as well. I mean, just like last year, linebackers were worthless unless your name was Fred Warner. So it's definitely possible. So talking about defense, though, and I bring this one up because I just played a primer game not too long ago, and this I noticed a lot. And then a couple guys in SML I've seen do it. What do you think about guys that click off of the defenders? So you're running in the open field. Here comes a guy. You can see the little icon underneath his user, and about 5 yards before he gets to you, it disappears because he clicks off and lets the computer make the tackle. What do you think about those guys? I'll start with you, Straw.
Yeah. I think everything goes to we've talked about this a lot, but just I don't think that you should abuse something. Like I think that, there's a everyone I don't think anyone should have to play like anyone else necessarily, right? Like people have their strengths on what they
Mm-hmm.
do and how they do it as long as it's sim, as long as it sort of fits that vibe. I think that if you start abusing something, that's when you should start kind of looking at it and saying, okay, am I doing this too much? There are certain times where, I could see trying to do something or just knowing that certain things work, certain things don't work, but just not abusing it. So like, hey, go in and try to make that tackle. You see that you're coming down and it's set up and it's lined up, like go for it, give it a shot. Don't just click off every single time. I'd say like add some balance in there, go for it, just the same way that we do with anything else, not overusing the play that's always going to work or just doing something just because it's going to work. So that's kind of how I feel about it. It's a balance. Find the right times for everything. Don't abuse it. Play to your style. Like still try to win the game. I think KP had it. I still love that article of KP just saying like, "Hey, everything's in my head too much about what not to do and how not to do the thing. Like, play your game." But I still think don't abuse something. You know, don't abuse it too much. That's kind of how I feel about it.
All right, AJ, what do you think?
Dude, I'll be honest. I don't even notice when people are clicking off. I'm in like a different headspace when I'm playing Madden. I don't even notice. And the only time I notice that is somebody's like running their player like to a certain spot on the field just to click off. Like that's I kept that was the noob special. Run the guy in position and then click off or whatever. But I don't love it. I mean, you only get to control one player anyway. So if you're going to click off that player, like what are we doing?
That feels like off-ball defense in 2K to me. If you played 2K and they don't cover the guy with the ball, they just run around. That's what it feels like.
If you choose not to click on, that's one thing. That's a strategic thing.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I can understand
all the time. Like for instance, it's 3rd and 15 and somebody dumps it off the running back. If I got two guys approaching, I'm not going to be, I'm not clicking on because I'm going to freaking miss. And then the second guy's going to get juked and it's over with. You know what I mean? So you got to pick your spots when you're doing that. I don't like clicking off though. I think, if you do it on accident, so be it. But play the game.
All right. So now for the fun part, the hot takes. And we'll start with you, AJ. What is your hot take?
All right, so I'm touching a little bit on this NFC thing that y'all touched on earlier. Anybody can get there, and maybe this isn't too hot, but I think Coach P is gonna make a Super Bowl this cycle. He's gonna figure out the QB position. He's got inside stuff with Dexter Lawrence. He's pretty notorious for having a pretty stout defense, and we know Coach P will do whatever it takes to win. So my hot take is Coach P going to make it to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but he's going to make it to the Super Bowl to represent the NFC this cycle.
All right,
at least once.
Straw, you got one hotter than that, or?
Now I'm trying to think because mine wasn't hotter than that, and I was trying to think if I wanted to switch.
All right, I'll give you a second. I'll go with mine. So I've got last time we did this, I picked T-Steel to win the NFC North. I don't know if T-Steel won an NFC North game. Or maybe any games since I made that prediction. So I'm going to go the opposite direction. We'll see if maybe it has the opposite effect. Well, we talked about him earlier. I'm going to go with Soda. And I don't think he wins or not wins, but I don't think he makes the playoffs next cycle or next season. I don't think he makes it this season, and I don't think he makes it next season. I think guys have maybe figured him out, and he's going to have to kind of reset and change things up. This season, he's got 5 wins. One of them was over a team with a winning record. That was KP. That's the only team with a winning record he's beaten this season since his Super Bowl run. And I think guys are catching on, and that's why he's having trouble. Maybe letting guys go too, because he's let a lot of talent walk out the door, so he can have a lot of cap space. But there's not really much to fill it with. And between that and his play calling being kind of repetitive, I think guys are catching on. So I'm going to say Soda doesn't make the playoffs this season or next, and that means he's probably winning a Simbardi. All right, Straw, you got your hot take?
All right, I'm gonna go for this one. This is gonna add some fuel to the fire. My hot take. I think that we are actually gonna see a huge regression from a guy that went and won the bid on a huge quarterback. I think that Dump is going to not. I think that next season he's still not going to win the division, and I think that he's going to make it to the playoffs, but I think he's going to lose in the playoffs, and I think he's going to end up regretting that big contract that he has with Josh Allen, and not really be able to build his team, not have a lot of great draft picks, and I still don't think he's gonna make a ton of noise. So that's what I think. I think he's gonna regret. I think he's gonna be throwing the ball, slinging it with Josh Allen, but he's just not gonna be able to get over the hump and win. That's what I'm gonna go for my hot take.
All right, just curious, were you going after Josh Allen?
I made some inquiries. But it was no way I was gonna beat him. It was no way.
Okay, no, he paid for it, but Just curious if that maybe played into your hot take at all, but okay.
I did kind of want him a little bit. I did want him a little bit.
I think the rest of the NFC is kind of glad you didn't get him, but all right, guys. So that's been our hot takes. So, Soda, congratulations on your Simbardi that you're probably going to get now, and we'll be back. Hopefully, maybe the break between shows won't be quite as long next time, but we'll be back. And thanks for watching, guys.